Welcome back to Seaside Joe, a Seahawks football podcast. Right now, specifically focused on how the Seahawks are going to get back to being a contending team. But within that, the big draft coming up, a lot of talk about how Seattle has a need at center. And one of my favorite all-time draft moments ever came at an inconspicuous time in the 6th round in the 2015 draft. When we were doing a live stream, and suddenly the Seahawks made a selection that made my co-host Zach Whitman, creator of a website called 3 Sigma Athlete, absolutely lose his mind. And I said, "What's going on here, Zach? Why are you losing your mind?" And he said, "I think Kristjan Sokoli is the first ever 4 Sigma athlete, arguably the greatest athlete in NFL draft history, pound for pound." And I'm so excited to get to talk to him officially on the Seaside Joe podcast today. So welcome to Seaside Joe, Kristjan Sokoli. Am I saying that correctly? Just for everyone out there.
Yes, that works. In Albanian, it's Kristjan Sokoli, but I would not expect anyone to pronounce it that way. Thanks for having me, Joe. And shout out to Zach Whitman. Yep.
Yes, shout out to Zach Whitman, wherever you are. I'm not sure myself, but another fact about you: first Albanian-born player in the NFL. And, that's so interesting. As we're talking here to Kristjan, you are walking out of Houston Gamblers Media Day. And for anyone out there, Seahawks fans wondering, the where are they now sort of moments, explain to us a little bit the USFL, because this sounds like it could be an exciting new football league, honestly, for fans to sort of check out this spring. I lost you in the elevator, I believe. So another exciting moment here on Seaside Joe is we've got elevator moments. Are you back there?
Way to improvise. I love that. I got a couple more floors, and then I think the connection will get better after the elevator here.
No sweat. Improvisation is a big part of what I do. It's a big part of football,
Life.
It's a big part of life. Calling audibles.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm great at segues, and I can talk about, calling an audible about a player having to learn to do something new for the first time in the professional football league known as the NFL. So, you had to improvise, you had to call an audible, and you had to, learn a whole other side of the ball when you were drafted by the Seahawks in 2000. And
no problem. You see, bud. Yes.
In 2015. Yeah. So that was such an interesting year for the Seahawks and for you. For those out there who aren't aware, Kristjan, you were a defensive tackle, a very versatile defensive lineman. You could play the nose, the 3 tech, the 5 tech. You said you were prepared to do anything on the defensive line. And you were playing there at the University of Buffalo. Also the home at that time, a lot of people were talking about Khalil Mack and saying this school's got some real prospects coming out of there. And then at what point during that process did you find out that you could be viewed as a center?
So Tom Cable, he came and worked. Well, they spoke to me. The Seahawks spoke to me about being an offensive lineman a couple months before the draft. And then I think a few days before the draft, Cable came and worked. Me and Ali Marpet, actually, it's a cool story.
Oh, wow.
He's obviously had a tremendous career with the Buccaneers. And he just announced his retirement this winter, actually. Interesting, because he's a guy that probably could play for several more years. But yeah, he announced his retirement. Went out with a Super Bowl win, I think, a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, he worked both of us out there. And then that's when I definitely knew that, there was obviously I knew there was serious interest before too, but that really made it even more serious a couple days before the draft. And then I got drafted. I think I was thinking I would play guard probably. And then, I spoke to Cable, and they told me, a couple of days later that they're looking to play me at center as well. So that was definitely interesting.
Yeah, it's transitioning from different sides of the ball or having versatility. It didn't seem like something new to Pete Carroll or Tom Cable. It's not the first offensive lineman, that would have been moved from a different position, maybe, but certainly I think it is maybe more accepted or more common now. At that time, it seemed very unusual, especially. Did you because we get into so much here in upcoming about your career, because you've moved back and forth, and had just different teams see you in different ways because of your exceptional, athletic ability and the amount of passion you've had for football and becoming a great football player. So what I'm curious about though is going back to your pro day. First of all, did you expect to get a combine invite at all, or was that something that you were kind of just focused on the pro day?
I was hoping for it. I was definitely hoping for it, Joe. But I definitely wasn't expecting it. I knew I was a tweener guy on the outside. I remember I had played in the I think it's called the Medal of Honor Bowl game. It was probably the fourth best game to be in at the time. And I played really well at defensive line and made some plays in that bowl game, did really well in practice. And I think that's what kind of got my stock up, because playing in Buffalo, I was 0-0. So I didn't get to really, blow up the stat sheet. I think I had 6 or 7 tackles for a loss, maybe a sack or 2 in my senior year. But yeah, a Medal of Honor bowl game, that allowed me to kind of show my ability on the field. And then no, I didn't get the combine invite, hoping for it. And then pro day was obviously a nice day for me as well. I got to show my athletic ability.
And you did. I mean, if we were to put your pro day numbers up against the combine numbers, not just in your class, but in every single class that has ever come before, you're 6'5", 290 pounds at that time. And your 40-yard dash is faster than Jason Kelsey. I think it was the 3rd fastest ever for an offensive lineman. I think you had the highest vertical jump ever, up there as the highest broad jump ever until this year. Cole Strange, I think, had 1 inch further than you. And I'm not counting other people who only had pro days. Obviously, they didn't get included. I'm just the combine numbers that I have, but still combine, pro day. What do you attribute to the fact that you were able to put up numbers like that, unprecedented numbers? What do you attribute that most to?
So it's probably tough to answer that question, right? Because honestly, I'm very fortunate to have had the opportunity and the physical ability to do that. You got to start with genetics, right? I mean, you have to have a certain genetics to be able to do that. So I have to, thank Mother Nature for that, and my parents. I think that's just reality, that answer. And then, but I think it was a culmination of things. I've always been very wiry and intense. I always was ready to train. So from a young age, I always wanted to train. So I put my genetics to use. And really, I think where it started, obviously it started at Bloomfield High School, the football program, and even in middle school. But my first intense training, and not that high school football isn't intense, but I feel like the combination of this training with my high school football training was intense. It was with Reed, my personal trainer. Shout out to Andre Reed. He's my personal trainer from New Jersey. And now he's a very successful business owner. He's still a trainer. He also has a patty place that he's opened up now. Your Ultimate Patty Place, Yup, on Instagram. Go follow him.
Oh, absolutely.
Like his posts and drop a comment saying, I don't know, something about thanks for training Sokoli or something. But he's a good man. Yeah, so he trained me in high school. I think that was obviously my high school program was definitely helpful. Reed was helpful. And then I think, and then college conditioning, strength and conditioning, really took me to the next level. And I think that came with age too, right? I was 18 and I was 225, so I was very skinny coming out of high school. There's actually a lot of 1AA schools that wouldn't offer me. They're like, we think he's an offensive lineman. They were onto something there, I think, because here I am at 30 years old, back in the USFL, and I'm playing left tackle now. So it's funny. Zach Deerwater, my offensive line coach in high school too, he's like, will you give up on trying to be, cool and get sacks? He's like, just play left tackle. You're going to get a full scholarship. not going to be that terrible, all right? And I, hindsight, I should have just done that kind of. I did good things at D line too, but yeah. So really, and I don't want to miss. I got Reed was very helpful in that, and then Zach Duvall, my college strength coach, my strength and conditioning program there. It was very intense. It was tough. He was very much on the side because either I think there's no perfect way to do anything, right? In strength and
Yeah.
conditioning, you either lean towards injury prevention or you lean towards getting bigger, faster, stronger. Like you have to lean. You can't. I think that you can't truly get both so much. You got to give up one for the other. And if I call it the way I truly see it, Zach Duvall kind of gave up injury prevention a little bit and went hard on the bigger, faster, stronger. I benefited from that. I like that program. It's not for everybody, and there's downsides to it, but it was very intense. It was very. You had a lot of Eastern methods and a lot of Olympic training. And obviously, you back to genetics and college dining hall and becoming a grown man and that's when I truly started to put the weight on as well.
I'm
Pro
curious
day,
about the weight.
And then last thing because I do want to give credit where it's due. I did train for a month and a half at St. Vincent Sports Performance Center in Indianapolis, and they do a great job, honestly, with pro day training. I think they still do it there. Coach Brandon, who's the strength coach there, he did an excellent job there. Nutrition was great. So, I had some great resources. I really did.
Yeah. I'm curious, and I think about too, like, your backstory and your family's backstory and your dad coming over here from Albania and working, and doing so much to like get his family like comfortably situated in a new country. And it seems like when I think of that, I think of you coming from a family of work ethic and like incredible work ethic. And then I think about how you then went on to have such an incredible, a college career and then a pro day. And here at 30, no matter whether it's in the NFL, I saw you playing in the German league and you were playing I think you played every position.
left tackle and defensive end. It was just like for me when I played Madden. It was great.
There you go. And
shout out to the Potsdam Royals and the German Football League. They were very good hosts and very good to me. Seriously.
Yeah, that sounds.
Royals, thank you.
I would love to go over there and check out it. I would love to go to Germany.
They love their football. It's growing like soccer here, maybe in the 80s, right? But it's cool to see. The people that love it are crazy about it, and it was a great experience. But sorry,
that's great. No, yeah, that's great. I'm curious, with your work ethic combined up against, you were at University of Buffalo, like I said, Khalil Mack was at the University of Buffalo. I know that when I was in high school, I wasn't about the gym and I wasn't about working out. And then I flamed out of football by sophomore year. And then there were those guys that I looked up to and they were be in the gym and stuff, but all those guys didn't even get college offers, of course, like most guys don't. And then you've got the guys in college and some of the best athletes in the world, but most of them never get close to the NFL. When you compare the amount of time you spend in a gym without putting down your teammates and all that kind of stuff, were you the guy that was kind of first in, last out, or would you say it's lucky genetics? How much do you compare your work ethic versus the average football player maybe?
So it's both, Joe. If I was going to say I pound my chest and say I did it because I spent an hour before, an hour after in the gym, that wouldn't be the truth. But then to the other side of it, honestly, I'm extremely passionate about my work ethic. I really am. I've been raised up to be that way. And that reminds me to be thankful to my parents that instilled that in me by seeing how they work. I mean, literally both my mom and dad, everything they did it with such intensity, attention to detail. As I get older, I really realized that my mom, she was a stay-at-home mom for the majority of, me growing up. But even with that, she did it at such a high level. She would clean the house every single morning. Food was on the table every time my dad came home for lunch. I mean, folding me and my brother's clothes to the T. I mean, and, she did this because she wanted to, that's literally, that was in her blood. And so, being raised around that, I think it definitely carried over. And then the stories I heard about my ancestors, even my grandfather, who I never got to meet, he died, in his 40s, and my dad was 9 years old. But there's so many stories of triumph and hard work and living through communism and tough times and living in the mountains off the land, honestly, to be direct with you. And just knowing that what people went through to kind of get to where I'm at, I think it gave me a lot of drive and motivation to represent my last name well. And we all have our strengths, right? You know, like your strength wasn't maybe going in the gym every day and going
Mhm.
crazy to the gym, but I'm sure you do pretty good at what you do with your podcast. A small example. So, and that was my strength. You know, was hard work, and honestly, I never shied away from it. And it's not easy. It's not easy for me either. Just the way it's not easy for you. I'm sure you have plenty of days when you don't feel like doing your podcast, right? But
For sure.
consistency is key. So I tell people this all the time, especially young kids. 9 out of 10 workouts that I've done my entire life, I did not feel like doing it at all. I didn't even want to get out of bed that
Mhm.
morning. But that's what it takes, right? And it's the same thing and everything. And so yeah, it's genetics, and I have taken pride from high school on. I've always taken pride in being the hardest worker in the room. Now, was I always the hardest worker in the room? I don't, probably not. There's a lot of great guys I've been around, and hardworking guys I've been around. There seriously is, and the point I want to make: there's a lot of guys that work their ass off. You know, excuse my French. In high school, in college, I didn't get to the next level because they weren't gifted with my genetics too. So that's a reality too. You know.
I love that, man. That's very true. You know, I love consistency, and you know, you
Yeah,
got to do things. You know, it only matters when you do things at the moment you don't want to do them. Otherwise,
exactly.
you know,
Everybody can do it every couple of weeks, right?
yeah.
Yeah, you know.
I see that
It's like if you
time.
look at my YouTube channel right now, which is something that's kind of make a point about that. Yeah, I've got like a video on there every few months, right? And and it's just like, whoa, when I look at it, I'm like, well, that's not what it takes, and I'm sure as a content creator yourself, right? If you started doing your podcast every month or two, you'd probably lose some viewership, right? So it's
Absolutely.
the kind of, yeah, everything.
Yeah, I actually have your YouTube channel up here behind me because I wanted to show.
Okay. Uh, I
This
do
is a
love to
good
make
thing.
content. I love to make. Oh, there's my guy John. That's a good man right there.
This
The
is
pleasure of, yeah.
Yeah, well, this is one of the
That's
guys you named
awesome.
earlier?
See, you're prepared, man. Just having that screen back there set up, ready to go. This all takes preparation and work. For all the kids that are watching this that want to be good at football, podcast, anything, there you go. It's about preparation. It's about work, consistency. But yes, this is a good time.
This is you and a 300-pound stone. Is that right?
Yeah, probably shouldn't have bothered to do that, but John is a great man, and he introduced me to this stone, and I said, "Well, I guess I have to pick it up now." Goddamn.
Is that the heaviest stone that you've picked up?
That is, and it's funny. I've never trained with stones, and that was my first time exposed to them with John. I think we got 3 or 4 workouts in together with those. And that was a good time. Yeah, it was fun.
You know, and it's also like a good example, I think, of sometimes I just like, what does it take to be like an NFL football player or great football player? Because you've also got parts here on your YouTube channel, which where can people, you want to shout that out, like the name of the YouTube channel?
Sure. Thank you, Joe. I appreciate it. Soko Tube. I think
Soko Tube. Yeah.
I don't know about the name
Soko.
too. Is the name too catchy or superficial? I was going for, I don't know if marketing is my strength now. I'm a football player, but I'm trying to do content here and there.
I don't think it's bad at all. I don't think it's bad at all. Maybe people can tell us in the
Uh,
comments what they think about the name Soko Tube.
that's
Uh,
good. I like that. Yeah.
but you've got clips on there of you training as an offensive lineman, some of these like sort of practices and reps that we don't necessarily see on Sundays and Saturdays. But it's like when I watch you do it, I'm like, yeah, that looks like a powerful NFL player who's like going to be out there. But, when you got drafted and you got moved to the other side of the ball, can you sort of talk about, what were the challenges of becoming an NFL offensive lineman? Because we knew you had the athleticism, we knew you had the work ethic and the effort. What were the challenges that you think stopped you from like becoming the Seahawks starting center?
Yeah. No, that's a great question, Joe. Um, I think it was the playbook, to be very direct. I mean, and I picked it up. It was well enough to make the roster the first year, the
Mm-hmm.
entire year as a backup. Um, and then the second training camp, what happened in the second training camp, I just wasn't consistent enough with my play. And a lot of that really came down to knowing my playbook. Now I knew my plays, kind of, but not enough, right? And the game is very intense. It happens very fast. And I just I made too many mental errors in training camp. And that kind of caused the Seahawks, Now to the other side to that, maybe you call it an excuse, but I like to call it both sides. There's two sides to everything. They drafted, second rounder, fourth, third rounder, and a sixth rounder, all interior guys. One of them is center. That didn't help my case either. Joey Hunt went on to have a nice career, and he kind of beat me out there. And I think, to beat me out, Jermaine did to Fady, Reese Oviambo. So there's some good players there too that I was competing against. And I didn't make enough of a case to be one of those 9 or 10 guys, right? And what happened? The Seahawks wanted me to go to practice squad to continue build as a center. They didn't think that I couldn't do it. They just thought that I needed more time to develop as a center. And they were right. I did need more time to develop as a center, especially from the mental part. And center is the toughest position to play on the offensive line mentally. I was up against a very tough challenge. I'm not going to.
No, I think that's 100% true. And anyone who disagrees, that's true.
Here I am, great physical athlete, which is a great advantage to have, but I'm trying to learn center, let alone offensive line, but center, for the first time in my life. High school, but high school ball is a different deal, right? So it was a tough challenge. Just being consistent in my play could have helped me there. But honestly, the call even, I think the reality was too that there's a lot of good players competing for that job there too. And then the other part of it too, it's 2020. The Seahawks were really adamant about me going to the practice squad there and developing at center. If you look in hindsight, you could say I should have definitely done that. I should have stayed at center, and it probably would have worked out. I had the physical ability; it was just a matter of time. But hindsight's 2020. At the time, my agent too, which I didn't disagree with this mindset. He's like, listen, NFL careers are very fragile. You have a small window of opportunity where people actually know you and will give you a shot. Let's try to get you a shot at defensive line. That's where you're most natural at. And that's a decision we made. We went for that. And we went to the Colts, and we didn't look like we made a bad decision. I got to the Colts end of September, was on practice squad all year, and it was activated to the active roster as a defensive end for the last 2 weeks of that season. So I was doing some really good things at defensive end there with the Colts. And then the GM got fired the next offseason. And not to make an excuse, but it's part of the story.
But that's important.
And then I got cut in June, the last day of those camps. That was kind of bad luck. I've had good luck in my career. And that was one of the bad dealings. And so,
but I think that's fair.
That's kind of the story there. Yeah.
You're in a unique position again with this whole flipping sides of the ball. We're looking at here, we're looking at ahead to this upcoming draft and literally talking about people are having debates about whether or not a guy who's a left tackle can play right tackle. And it's like, you're going from a defensive tackle to a center, which, as you said, it's got the most assignments. It's got the most it's got to do of all the 5 positions on the offensive line. Maybe only tight end would be the closest thing of like how many different things you need to learn as compared to a center.
Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah.
Then you're going out and going from not just like, guys sometimes go off track, they get a new offensive coordinator. You're getting a new side of the ball. You go to the Colts. Now you're doing defense again. And then I think on your next assignment, you go to the Saints and they put you on offense.
Yeah, defense felt like the back of my hand. As soon as I got to the Colts, I was running down kickoff and doing kick return in practice. I was feeling athletic. I was feeling great. I was loving it. I was loving every moment. It was like, back to my nature. So that was fun. But then, I got, unfortunately, it was an injury that happened the last day of June with the Colts. I was the 90th guy that they decided to bump out, and I got bumped out. And then I got called to the Saints 2 days before the start of training camp that year, and they worked me out, and they said, we know you want to be a defensive lineman, but we have a spot at guard. And that's where we need you. Do you want us to sign you, or do you want to fly back home? And I was like, well, looks like I need a job. So let's go. And then, I did that. And actually I made some really good strides there too. I think like first and second preseason, it was like the same old problems. I remember there's like the same old problems with pass pro being a struggle. And then I had a third preseason game where things really clicked. It was like, it looked good. And, I remember my agent was saying too, he's like, yeah, you look like an offensive lineman. Like, I have hope, this to work. I actually might be able to work. And then the fourth preseason game, I bombed the kind of thing. I gave up, I think, a couple sacks and just didn't do a good job in pass pro. And that's the thing about offensive line. It takes time. Like, I wish I could have been better. I wish I could have been a little better at the training camp. But yeah, it takes time. And then, and then the Saints hadn't given up on me either. They knew I had the shot at it. But, me and my agent again decided that, we have a better shot at defensive line than we do at offensive line. That's what we believe. In hindsight's 2020, you know. So we stuck to our guns there. The Saints, then released me. I went to the Giants to play defensive line. Week 7, it's funny how things work out. Week 17 of that 2017, the Giants were offering me to play defensive line for their last week of the season. They're, losing season. They weren't going to go to the playoffs. And then the Saints were offering me to play offensive line and go doing a little playoff run with them. Obviously, as a practice squad guy.
Yeah.
To me, it was black and white. I was like, no, I'm definitely taking the defensive line opportunity. That's where I feel, it came easy to me, obviously.
Is that like an attack thing? Like, do you think that's an intrinsic natural attack thing inside
of
you?
It is. And it is definitely the way I'm wired. But, and there's two sides to that too. The other part to that is I know that if I could figure out offensive line, and I know I'm very capable of that, and I actually feel really good about what I'm doing here. And if I could just learn to sit down when I need to and then trigger the attack when it's needed, I would be pretty good at offensive line. And I know that's what Tom Cable saw too, kind of thing,
Yeah.
But yeah, it is that.
Is that,
and then,
well, with regards to Tom Cable and the Seahawks and going through their, in Seattle, I don't know what it was like on your end as a player for the Seahawks, or if you had ever sort of paid attention to maybe what fans say, but there was a lot of consternation or frustration, I think, with Tom Cable for a lot of fans, and he was a focus a lot for people to talking about if Russell Wilson gets sacked, Tom Cable was the thing that they could yell out in anger and say, this is Tom Cable. This is Tom Cable. What was your experience like with Tom Cable that first year in the NFL?
Very positive. He's a very intense coach. I can see how not everybody would kind of maybe adapt to his style, especially, but for me, no, honestly, I bought in 100%.
Yeah.
I like his coaching style. I actually enjoyed, spending some time with him as well. I remember Terry Poole, and Coach Cable, and Mike Flood, who's a community relations. They had a great trip, weekend fishing trip to Alaska.
Oh,
and
wow.
As you guys probably know, you've got some Big 12 fans in Alaska. Had a nice time there. Yeah. But no, yeah, I like Coach Cable's coaching style. And obviously he was a certain methodology with offensive line too, where more aggressive and then running the pass kind of, vaguely speaking. But another thing about that, what happens between the lines kind of thing is pretty, as you know, is pretty different from what you see on TV, right? There's so many times where a quarterback gets sacked and it's completely the quarterback's fault and you don't know that, and then vice versa. There's times where you think it's the quarterback's fault, but it's the lineman's fault. So it's not always what it looks like on TV, but yeah.
That seems to be something that I think people are trying to figure out with regards to something like analytics, where they're trying to figure out okay, maybe every single play isn't assigned to say one person. Like if a running back runs for 20 yards, maybe we don't just go, this is all because of the running back, maybe it's because of the offensive line.
No, it's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this is what I love about football. It's I think to truly be successful at it, all 11 guys have to be on the same page and they all have to be working together.
Yeah. In that respect, it kind of stinks for the fans, right? Because you don't get the transparency you naturally want. You'd love to know exactly why a play worked and why it didn't. I mean, there's times where where people don't do a great job up front and the linebacker just shoots the wrong gap, and then that's why the running back gets 10-yard gain. So there's a lot of mystery in football from that perspective. But, like anything else over time, the truth unfolds, right? The better running backs do better, and the better offensive linemen stay.
With you came into a team as well. Not a lot of guys can ever really say which is you came into a team that had been on back-to-back Super Bowls. You came into a team that was riding as high as anyone could, other than the fact that had lost the Super Bowl on the last play and everything. How would you describe the atmosphere with regards to the Seahawks that year? You have been with other teams since then, teams that maybe haven't had as much recent success as when you were a part of that. And I know a lot of Seahawks fans and the Seahawks themselves are wondering how to get something like that back again, because now it's coming off of a long time since any Super Bowl appearances. So would you say there was anything unusual about the atmosphere, or was it just another football team and hey, you don't win the Super Bowl every year?
I think the atmosphere is definitely different, and I could feel that. You could feel that with winning teams, and you can't really, you definitely can't fake it, right? I don't know that, from outside looking in now, I don't know that Seattle's lost that either. They definitely don't have it like they did 4 or 5 years ago, right? I mean, they haven't won a Super Bowl. They haven't had a deep playoff
Yeah.
run. Oh, maybe a couple of years ago. But on the other hand, it's not like you guys are going 4-10, 4-12, every season, right? So I think you guys definitely are still a winning team. I do think that draft picks walking into your locker room now definitely are still thinking like, this is the Seattle Seahawks. Pete Carroll's a winning coach. I do think you're still a winning team. But yeah, you're not a championship contender team. If I can, now I'm being like those, now I'm being like the media, which I hate to sound like that, because but yeah, but you're still a winning team. So
That's true.
um,
Did
what
you
happens,
like
right?
did you like playing for Pete Carroll? Was that sort of the tempo that fits your style?
I did, I really did. It was good energy. It was always great to be kind of in the locker room and in the meeting rooms. But at the same time, he knew how to kind of lead a team as well. It's like, I think there's a balance, right? You don't want to be too much of a player's coach, but no, yeah,
Who
I
was
did.
your
I thought it was
who was your favorite coach throughout your career, whether that's high school or today?
that's yeah. Mhm. Uh, that's a question that makes you think, right? I've had a lot of great coaches, but
And you've had a long,
yeah,
career.
yeah. No, I
dating
mean,
back,
I almost feel bad at the answer too, because I've had
there's
so many
you've
great
had so
coaches. They've
many
all been
great
great.
coaches.
But
Yeah.
yeah, truth is what it is. Probably Pete. If I had to pick, yeah, Pete. Yeah. Mhm.
Wow. Yeah. I
And
mean,
I'm thinking of head coaches here now too. Obviously, yeah, yeah. There's been, Jappy Oliver was a D line coach I had in college, who I honestly thought was one of the best coaches I've had. And I'm not even going to try and name. I'm not even going to name the best D line coaches. There's no need to even mention it, because I respect so many of them that I've worked with. But he was a guy that was so good. I thought about the details, hand positioning, footwork, and I thought he was, a guy that's very, what you want from a coach, very consistent too, and um, what it should look like, and correcting it when it doesn't look that way. Which was tough as a young bull, Buffalo Bull. But as you get older, you realize you want that from a coach. I mean, that's always one that comes to mind. And yeah, I've had great coaches though from high school on. Coach Carter in high school, who's beyond just a coach, does really good for the community. He's coached at Bloomfield High School for over 30 years. I mean, you can't ask for more than that as a high school program. Um, he also was huge in me getting a scholarship. Honestly, he went above and beyond in sending my highlight tape out, and trying to get me a look. I mean, it's and as I get older now, I realize he didn't have to do that. Right, his job is just to coach high
yeah.
school football. He doesn't have to be reaching out to MAC schools and sending out film, but he did that. So yeah.
That's great. And it's like sometimes like, yeah, the best coaches might be a guy who, yeah, just inspired you and
That's true.
drove
Yeah, there's a
you.
lot to coaching. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, like, that seems to be something that I've seen more and more when I look, focus more like on the college level, is how many of these coaches take a real investment in a person's life, not just in necessarily trying to win the next football game, and then
Yeah,
that's
because yeah, it's such a weird balance, right? Because it is all about winning the next game. Like, we get it. Nobody's getting paid or promoted without focusing and executing on that job. But then on the other hand, there's a human element to it, where you want to work for somebody, and you want, if you feel more team camaraderie when they can also realize the other side to it, right? That we're all trying to get paid, if I can be direct, for
yeah.
our own families, our own good. And I think Seattle actually did a pretty good job of that. And it's not an easy medium to play, right? Where it's like, it's business, you do your job or you're out. That is a reality. And I don't think that a team or a coach should ever kind of pretend that's not true. It's the
Yeah.
harsh reality. But then to the other side of it, let's try to form a team as well, right? The ones that are going to be able to consistently do their job and hang around. Let's see if we can truly care about getting the job done so that your kid can go to school and have all the things paid for, whatever, all that good stuff. That sounds good, but there's a truth to it too, right? And that's in every workforce, right? In every team environment. Yeah.
When you were coming into the NFL, as whether it was as a center or as a defensive tackle, you would have been one of the lightest players at that position if it was at 290 or 295 or something like that. I'm curious because there's a center coming into the NFL this year out of Iowa named Tyler Linderbaum, and a lot of people talking about him as like very great on the field, but he's only 290 pounds. And, other than Jason Kelsey, this doesn't really happen very often. I want to know at 290, what disadvantage, like how serious is that as a disadvantage in your experience? Is it a real thing? And how do you overcome like being that, weight as compared to your competitors? And I also want to know, how unrealistic is it to add 10 pounds at the next level? Because you've been a person who's added a lot of weight for certain needs, depending on where you were at.
Yeah. So it really depends a lot on the frame of the player. I'd love if we could pull up his film right now and we could do some dissecting, but because I need to watch some more college ball these days. I haven't watched him play, and he's a guy that I have heard of. So it depends on the frame, right? Some guys can definitely do it. Some guys, that's just where they're at. Another thing I'll say, and this too, it's definitely not, limiting in the sense that he can't do it. There's plenty of, there's 290 centers that have been successful in the NFL. And if there's one position where you could get away with less weight, it's certainly center, because you do usually work more combo blocks and you usually have a guard that you're being helped by. Sometimes the center does have to block one-on-one, but it's not doesn't happen a lot of times.
Yeah.
So, it's a position you could get away with it more so. And he's probably a guy that, maybe I imagine he's probably because he's projected pretty high, right? He's probably a pretty quick.
Yeah, they're talking about him as anywhere from mid first round, which would be exceptionally high for a center. I pulled up a video here, but I don't have any. I haven't vetted
Let's see.
Exactly.
You could roll it if you want. Let's see if we see any football stuff in there.
Let's see. I can get this.
And who am I to judge this guy, right? I'm sure he's getting judged every single day by some guy on the internet. Let's be another one of those guys, right?
What if you were, based on your experiences, if you were drafting a center, what would you be looking for? Here we have Linderbaum. I don't know exactly what the impetus
That's some
here.
aggressiveness. There's nice aggressiveness there. I mean, yeah.
He is a
consistency is the first thing that comes to mind, honestly. If I was drafting a center, consistency, even mentally, and emotionally, if I can get a little deep here. But center, I think, is a lot about, you could be really great for 2 plays, and if you're just not there for the 3rd play, it doesn't really help much, because there's 4 of the guys relying on you to be very consistent in your communication and your understanding of the job, of the guys near you too. Let's see this play here. Go back. Let's see it from the beginning again. So it looks like he's got either sliding right, man to the left, and then he sees there's nothing there, so he comes back right. Nice job. That's good body control. So it looks to me like it's a slide right, but he's like, okay, there's no. Let's see. Roll it again. It looks like he's sliding. Looks like he's.
Let's try and.
Yeah, it looked like he's. I mean, I'm not positive. It looks like he was sliding right, but then he saw that there's not much to get there, and then he kind of. Yeah, and he comes back on his guy, and he's staying. He looks like he's actually. I mean, it's just one play, but it's a great display of body control there and balance, kind of staying square on that guy.
Did you take a real? Here's another play here from the other angle. Another angle, but
Let's see. Go back to the beginning. I didn't see that one.
Let's hear the.
Okay, here we go. Let's see that one. Yeah, nice. You got this ready to go. You're good. On Google nowadays. Right? Oh, there you go. Slide. Yeah.
Now for the For the novice, what when you're looking for sliding and that kind of stuff, like, can you explain
Yeah.
that a little bit?
So there's a slide side and there's the man side. Here it looks like the slide side's to the left, and he comes back to the right because there's not much work for him. Initially, he's stepping left. So him, the left guard and left tackle are sliding left.
Mm-hmm.
And then actually, this is an interesting deal because it looks like actually it's not a slide. It looks like they're keying the middle linebacker, and the left guard also comes back to the right because the middle linebacker flows to the right. So that looks like it could be what we used to call a squeeze protection. So
Interesting.
you either have a protection where you key one guy and you kind of slide to where he goes, or a protection where you have a slide side and a man side. Slide side is center, left guard, left tackle, slide left, for example, means the right guard and right tackle will be man on the other side.
Okay. And yeah, this is the player that a lot of people are excited about at center and talking about
I'm
him.
sure he's a great player, and it looks good. I mean, we'd have to see several games, right, to have an opinion.
Totally. I mean,
so here, this is a slide right. He's setting his left hand left there, and that's a great job cleaning up. And if I can be very analytical, what Coach Cable would not like to see there is him peeking back left for a split second. I mean, and different coaches differently too, but
yeah.
I know usually coach doesn't want you to look back to the man side, but that's great. That's solid. He was heavy in the post too. He didn't get out of the post, which means that you don't want to vacate your man side as a center too. Even though you're sliding right, you don't want to start sliding until you absolutely have to go and block somebody. Because the sooner you go slide to the right, the sooner you open up that side to the left, and you create more space for your left guard, and that space is not good because as a left guard, you don't want space for the D tackle. And I don't know if that made sense, but yeah,
I think
football talk.
Hey, this is a podcast about football, so I hope we're doing football talk.
Yeah, we're good.
I'm curious.
And speaking of football talk, it's funny because I got out of it in 2018. I was with the Giants playing defensive line, and I was doing really good that year. And they cut about half the team with a new general manager coming in, Dave Gettleman, and I got to stay on that team. And I got into the training camp, my fourth training camp in the NFL. It was finally my first training camp playing defensive line in the NFL, and this was a tough break. My second play, I tore my ACL, so that put me out. First game there. So that was tough. That was tough to swallow, honestly. And so what I was going to say is I think I was so upset about it that I kind of wanted to get over football and get away from it. And I kind of overdid that, right? So, what I should have done is but yeah, once the Giants let me know that they're not going to be re-signing me that next March, even though I'd been training really hard, my ACL was fine. My knee was 100%, honestly. I did a really good rehab. They told me they weren't signing me. I was very discouraged, and I kind of wanted to move on, but it was premature for sure. So I worked at Merrill Lynch for 2 years, and then last year I got the opportunity to play in the spring league. It was no payment, free, play for free, and I signed up in a heartbeat. I was so excited about the opportunity to play football, and talking football like this. Yeah, it reminds me of how much I love the game, right? And that's when I went. That's why even though I was doing fine after football, job with Merrill and all that, the opportunity to play football again was just something I couldn't turn down. And then Germany and now the USFL. And it's funny because and shout out to Masterworks, my previous employer. They're making it possible to invest into blue chip art. So if you're into investing, which a lot of retail investors nowadays, a lot of people looking for new opportunities to invest. They make it possible to invest into $1 to $25 million pieces of art. If you look at the investment numbers, art has very low correlation to equities. It has outperformed equities in the last 25 to 35 years, according to Citigroup study, Deloitte Art and Finance Report, 2 major art studies. Sorry to throw the ad up there, honestly, but it's a genuine ad. They gave me a great opportunity to kind of work for them on Wall Street the last several months. And they're doing a great job. They're making it possible, Masterworks, to invest in the blue chip art. I've not been paid for this. Just want to do it, honestly. I just want to do it because, they gave me a great opportunity, and they were very understanding of me wanting to pursue this football thing. And they're like, well, hopefully you'll come back when it's over. And then, and they've been very good to me. So, yeah, but that's kind of the story.
Well, hopefully it's not over anytime soon.
That's, right. Shout out to Masterworks, but I'd love to be able to keep playing football, right? Yeah.
And I am curious before, and before we get out of here, I'd like to, talk a little bit just about like that side of football that fans don't see as much of, which is like the practice squad life, the 90-man roster life, the USFL life, and the Germany life, and that kind of stuff where the players, they don't have as much of a spotlight on them, but like you're still out there with the NFL team. You're practicing, you're making the team better. You have to be, you're a part of the future and the present.
Oh
And
yeah,
you're in the NFL. And plus it's like to get on a practice squad is mind blowing. There's so many football players out there that it
yeah,
doesn't happen very often. And as you said, you've been a part of active game day rosters as well. So again, it's a great accomplishment to you. But what was that like? What has that been like? That practice squad life? Do you think it's just as fulfilling as long as you're playing football?
yes, I absolutely do. Of course, everybody wants to be on the active roster. Then everybody wants to be a starter. Everybody wants to be the best at their position. You're never going to not want more, right? That's just human nature. But just to be on the practice squad is 99% of it. Everything else is like another percent almost addition because it's and really when you get away from it, you kind of realize it's more too, right? It's about the lifestyle, and what a beautiful thing to get to play football for a living, and to be on those teams, and to do anything at such a high level. Honestly, what I've come to understand too, that's, and I've enjoyed that in other things too. Beyond football, being around a group. I'm gonna make, they might sound like cliche or whatever examples, but I mean them. Being around financial advisors at Merrill Lynch that are some of the best at what they do, I
Yeah.
felt that, and being at Masterworks, you're around some of the best um, employees there at what they do, and so that for me that's cool to be um, around people doing something at a high level. And obviously, the NFL practice squad is the epitome of that, right? You get to work if you're a third string quarterback. You're working with Aaron Rodgers or whoever the starting quarterback is, who's one of the
Yeah.
best in the world at what he does, and that's the guy who you back up. That's the guy you get to work for. You're being coached by some of the best in the world. So yeah, it's
And
definitely great.
was that a big because you've always been a big finance guy? We talked about this in the past, and you mentioned being on Merrill Lynch and stuff like that. How much has your interest in finance, do you think, helped you secure what you've made in the NFL? And is that something that's rare still for players to sort of have a very good conscience, faith effort to keep what money they make?
It has, honestly, and I'm lucky to have had that instilled in me kind of from a young age too. Um, a lot of kids, obviously, I come to a lot of us. Money is not something that's talked about at home as much as it should be, and I think this is getting better. Jonathan Collins, I hope I'm not um, fullback, former NFL fullback player who's all over LinkedIn talking about being good with your money. He's one of the guys that is advocating for that a lot now.
Mm,
We should talk more about money. I really think so. In the family, in your relationships, with your wife, your husband. One of the things that always kind of threw me off was when I don't know, people in relationships, they don't know each other's bank accounts. I don't know. The way I am, if I'm dating someone, I'm gonna know exactly what your checking is, what your saving is. You're gonna know mine too, because that
yeah.
reflects your behavior, right? Money is very intimate, but it should be shared with your close ones. And yeah, I do feel adamant about that. And um, I had my fun too. I'm not perfect. I didn't invest into Dogecoin at the perfect time. So,
I was
but
just
I've
looking
been
at
able to,
Dogecoin today.
yeah, yeah, I've been able to make reasonable investments over time, and and to be able to have something from my football career still, which I'm fortunate about. Like I never went for the home runs, and I think that's what people should strive to do in investing is to hit singles, mutual funds, real estate, and if you're going to invest in things, if you're going to pick stocks, if you're going to invest into real estate, you should know it. You should learn it as well. But if you're not going to know it, if you're not going to consistently put time into it, you should still invest. But there's great ways to invest passively, and I think it's important to make that distinction. Are you an active investor or a passive investor? If you're a passive investor, you should diversify. You should invest every month over time in the different mutual funds, and obviously we can go on and on. But
Mhm.
And we were getting better with this with education, and at the end of the day, no matter how much education you have, money is a representation of how disciplined you are and how much you work, and are you eating more than you're producing, if I may kind of be direct. So it's also goes to the point where it's not about just education, it's about being disciplined and accountable to yourself. And yeah.
This is fantastic advice. Not everyone watching this will ever be able to block the guy on the slide, but everybody needs good
Yeah,
financial
yeah, yeah.
advice. I
It's
was
not
just,
easy, right? It's like giving it workout advice, right? There's no secret sauce. It's like you can be the best trainer, but you're gonna have to work your butt off every single day, and that's the thing with money, kind of, right?
yeah, and that's great advice about having an open communication with your significant other about how much money you have and
Yeah,
how your finances are going, because I think that's something that I don't do, and I never really. I think, yeah, there's a fear of, like, I don't know what that fear comes from, but if there's a fear of revealing how much money you have.
yeah, no, and the fear is perfectly legitimate, right? Because it's intimate and it's personal, and you don't want someone to like you because you have a decent amount of money, and
Hmm.
you also don't want someone to judge you because maybe you're in a tight spot with money.
Hmm.
So it's understandable why it's there, but no, honestly, it's something I've always kind of felt made sense with your significant other, even with your kids, kind of. I mean,
Yeah.
it was everything with a grain of salt, right? I don't know if you want to tell your 10-year-old and put all that stress on them, but you want them to start understanding, though, how we trade in this world, right?
Yeah.
Because that's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And that's a very big part of life.
Yeah.
Before we go, I had another question, and now it just escaped my head.
You're good.
Well, while I think of that, I'll just remind everyone out there, if you like speaking of consistency, I've sent out a free Seahawks newsletter every day for the last 1,123 days. Uh,
Wow.
and
That's
if you go
awesome.
to seasidejoe.substack.com, you can be a part of that. So go sign up with your email addresses out there. While I'm giving plugs out, go to Soko Tube on YouTube for Kristjan's YouTube
Uh,
channel. Lots of, you got some highlights on there. We've got your mom's cooking on there. Looking,
yeah. Yeah. That's good.
that was, what is you've had like a 7,000 or a 10,000 calorie diet before, right?
I have at Buffalo. They were trying to get me to 320, 330 to be a nose guard. And I think I made it up to 325, but then my body
Wow.
kind of rejected. I got into training camp at 320 and I ended up playing, I think, at 295 anyway. But was active. Well, I think I did 100 days straight where I averaged over 7,000 calories a day and I tracked everything I ate. And that's kind of like an example of me being um, a maniac about my football. And that's how I've been. I have, it's been a path. I've been fortunate to have something that I care that much about. But yeah.
Yeah, and today DK Metcalf was even talking about. There was a story about DK Metcalf eating one meal a day and 4 bags of candy. Does that sound at all familiar to you,
I
or
saw that. I actually
how you
shared
would
that
eat?
with my brother because me and my brother Mark, we talk about diets all the time. It's one of our subjects. We talk about keto diet and
Oh yeah,
all that good stuff. And so I was like, well, you have all these great diets in the world arguing back and forth, and then there's genetics. So that's kind of, see. But my brother was making a point. He's like, I don't know, man. He's like, fasting works. And I do believe in fasting as well. So, he did say he eats one meal a day. So I guess he probably, intermittent fasting is probably a part of that too. But I mean,
yeah,
DK Metcalf is a freak athlete, shredded. That's genetics, him working hard in the weight room. Yeah.
yeah.
Sometimes, yeah.
I've done intermittent fasting every day for the last also like 1,200 days, and it works
Wow,
really well.
man. What happened 1,200 days ago? You decided to make some changes or something, huh?
I did, yeah. I was like, I read a book by Tim Ferriss called Tools of Titans, and it was just excerpts from his many podcast episodes, and he sort of just streamlined what his successful podcast guests all did, and some of those things that were out of there, like intermittent fasting or meditation or just different little things I had never done before. I've meditated minutes twice a day for the last 3 years. I've done intermittent fasting every day for the last 3 years. I've sent out this newsletter, and it helped me kind of get my life, just more efficient, but also just sort of gave me a chance to focus on just doing something consistently and growing from that. And it's been an incredible thing to do, because I could have never guessed that my relationship with meditation or exercise, because I used to be 350 pounds or something like that, and I'm like 220 now.
Wow.
So, and I wasn't like you, where people were like, this is good for you, you should go up over 300
I'm
pounds.
gonna end up my hotel room here in Birmingham, Alabama, and clap for you. That's awesome, man. Good for you.
Well, I appreciate that. I mean, I do, I hear very strongly to like consistency, and just it's within my power to do something. Why not do it? Something like as simple as sitting down and meditating for 20 minutes. It's like, if you don't have time to meditate, well, what do you have time for? It's literally doing nothing. So if I can do that, and there's nobody watching me do it, it's like, for me to just be able to do that, it helps prove to yourself that you are capable of things, and then things are more attainable than maybe they seem. It's just a day by day process. And at the end, you have
Yeah.
1,000 days, but every day it was just one day. So I think we're on
That's
the same
awesome.
page.
No, I 100%. I wanted to add to everything you said, but everything I was going to add was exactly what you're saying. No, you're right on. Yep. And
Well,
that,
I
and
appreciate
for
that.
everybody watching, yeah, it's kind of what I for everybody watching, the kids and people that are trying to get something done. There's no secret sauce. People always ask me, "Oh, can you work with my kid at offensive line?" And I'm happy to do that too. But I always tell them, like, I'll work with them for a session, but I'm not doing this consistently. So they should just go to anybody local that's working with offensive linemen. I
Yeah.
cannot give you in one session what somebody else can give you in 2, 3, 7, 10. It's all about consistency, and it's all about the little things. Tom
Yeah.
Cable and another great coaches really instilled that in me and reminded me of that. In everything, you do it at a high level, and you do it by doing the little things correct, and that's how you become great in the long run. And you kind of just said that, but yeah.
Tell me before we get out of here, what's going on with the gamblers? What do you expect to be playing? Are you playing with the I guess with the ones, is all that kind of stuff? Like, what exactly is the stage here, and when's the first game and all that stuff?
So Coach Sumwin, our head coach, um, been a pleasure to meet him and work with him. We've been going for close to 2 weeks now. I feel good about our scheme. Not that I'm the one to judge that, but I feel good honestly about how we're doing on offense and how we've been building every day. The first game is April 17th on Fox. I think our game is an 11 a.m. Central game. Really excited to get a shot to play football again. Like I said, I was working in New York, and honestly, I got a call about a month ago that I don't want to. Well, it was about the league not wanting to get guys that are older. I'm 30 years old, so I'm definitely older for football. Older. Yeah, I'm old for football. But yeah, so a month ago, it seemed like I was not going to get this shot, and honestly, it was going to be tough for me to get over the game. But I was getting ready to do that. I mean, at some point, everybody does it, and my
Yeah.
time might be very soon too, or but everybody does it. And I was definitely, and I was lucky that 2-3 weeks ago I got a call from Coach Gordon Shaw, a great offensive line coach who's had a very long career at offensive line, been successful at several Division I programs. He called me and he said he's going to draft me to play offensive line in this league. So I was very excited about the opportunity. I'm rolling with the twos right now. I'm playing at left tackle actually, which
Oh,
I
wow.
really enjoy. I've played at all positions in the offensive line now. In the spring league last year, I kind of played all five for the Alphas. And honestly, I do feel really good at left tackle. I mean, it's a place where I could really use my athletic ability. It's a little bit less thinking than center, so that helps, kind of thing. But I'm really excited to see kind of. I'm not going to give up any trade secrets here, but not that it's that big of a deal. But I think I'll get some opportunities to show my ability in the
Great.
season. I really think so, and I'm really excited about that, and looking forward to the work we're doing. And I think we got to. Everybody thinks they have a great team one weekend, right? But yeah, I do think we have a nice team, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Well, I think, talking to you now, because I don't know everything about you, just what's online and what we know. And I think talking to you now, if anybody out here was watching this or listening to this that was a football coach, look at this guy. He didn't have to come back to football. He didn't have to go play for free. He didn't have to go to Germany and play every position. He didn't have to go, to the Houston Gamblers. He didn't have to do any of this. I admire your work ethic, for your passion for football. I think, like, you are older for a football player, and that's fine, especially when you look at the league and how many young guys coming in every year, and the league is always, you gotta get the younger guys to afford the $50 million guys. So it's like you got to have so many of those guys. But hey, practice squads, they can have veterans now. And if that's as good, then let's get Kristjan onto a practice squad. He'll work his way up. He's got position versatility, all 5 offensive line positions, all 5 defensive line positions. So I say this is a strong endorsement, man. I hope other football coaches out there somehow get in touch with you, and this continues on and on and on. So I admire everything that you've done to put yourself in this position, from the incredible pro day workout, the 3 Sigma, 4 Sigma athlete, to the perfect 10 out of 10 on a relative athletic score, to all those position changes and new coaches. Shout outs to you for sticking through all that, because it's something I really admire. So thank you. Also, I mean, I really admire you came onto my little podcast here and talked to me about football and the Seahawks, and we really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Joe. It's been a pleasure to meet you, honestly, and really hear your story. I love the 1,000-day deal you're doing with the meditation. And I'm going to subscribe to your newsletter as well. That's awesome. I love to see people doing something like that. And honestly, yeah. Well, thanks for noticing that. But yeah, there's nothing I wouldn't do for football. It's a strange statement to make, but I've been fortunate enough to fall in love with something so immensely, and I kind of committed my whole life to it. Many times, but yeah, I don't want to get too intense now, but I love the game. I've been very fortunate to play it. The NFL, I've been very fortunate to play in the NFL. So just the opportunity to keep playing in the USFL is awesome.
That's great. I'm
just fortunate to get to keep playing football. Of course, nothing I wouldn't do for another opportunity at the NFL. And I do think that I could. I think I have a lot of playing days ahead of me. I do, actually. My body feels really good, and I've done pretty good at staying after it. But I'm just I'm extremely fortunate at 30 years old to be able to show up after going to, after having a regular job, which I was, was great, solid job, but to be able to come back and play football, yeah, it's lucky to do that.
That's awesome, man. And I know, anyone out there, throw your comments down below, subscribe to the newsletter. Let's see where this goes. Follow Kristjan on Twitter at Kristjan90, Kristjan 90 on Twitter. Anything else you'd like to plug before we go?
Thank you very much for having me, Joe. It's been a pleasure. That's all.
Well, it's been my pleasure as well. So thanks again for coming down here and talking football, talking Seahawks, and talking sports. For anyone out there, go ahead and subscribe to the YouTube, to the newsletter, to the podcast, or just thank you for watching and listening this time. And I'll see you next time if you're back on Seaside Joe.